start to kind of like, their lives start to be governed by the pop culture that they consume. And I think in space, kind of, you know, there would be fantasy sequences and dream sequences, and people would wake up. But I think Scott Pilgrim is like the dream sequence where he never wakes up. I don't think we're kind of inside Scott Pilgrim. I think the whole film is Scott Pilgrim staring out the window, dreaming up this highly fanciful version of events, you know.
Michael Cera. Sorry. Michael Cera. And Jason, I'm fascinated by
The answer is yes.
Whatever
you ask.
Yes. Okay? I just wanted to say it. But I'm fascinated by your acting. Both of you, your acting is just speechless. Obviously. But
you'll find Marcel speechless.
I want to know what it's like to be an actor, like jumping in the character and then jumping out and then jumping in again. I want to know just what it is for you. I mean, how much of yourself and your own personality actually goes into the character, or does none at all?
Michael's going to answer the question, and I know that when he does, he speaks for the both of us.
Well, you know, with this movie, it was not like anything I've ever worked on before, where you know, I mean, we had it all, we rehearsed a lot, and we kind of figured out exactly what we were going to do, more or less, before we went and shot it, so, I don't know, it's a tough question, I'm sorry, I'm doing my best. I know it's been boring so far, the answer, but give me a second. I don't know, I think, you know, with this movie, I just tried to do, give me a second before you left. I just tried to do what I thought Edgar wanted, because I knew he knew exactly what he wanted the movie to be. So, you know, we just tried to get a sense of what he was going for and try and do that as best we could, I think. And I think Jason agrees with me.
You got married in the middle of doing your role, so you had to break out of character, or did you break out of character? Did you get married as Gideon?
Gideon was a single man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, that is a very difficult question. And
technically, you're single. Gideon got married.
Oh, boy. Hello, camera. I can feel it. I'll tell you, that's a really hard question, and it's an incredibly kind compliment, and I know that means so much to both of us. And I think that no matter what I say, it's going to be such a disappointment. And if I say too much, it's going to sound like you're going to be like, what? That's going to be terrible. And so it's a really delicate thing, but all I can say is that, like, with regards to this movie and in terms of jumping in and out and characters and how much of yourself is in this thing, I think that for me, every time I've worked, it's always been different. And I try to just be open to working however people around me are working, and you know, and how the director wants to work, and you know, I try not to be like rigid, and I feel like, you know, if you ever go to a new town or a new city, there are like basic skills that you use to find things that you're looking for, but you've never been there, so it's like new, but it still looks like a city, and that's sort of what it's like to work on work. And you know, that's really all I can say. I mean, but you know, in this movie, I was really honored to work with Michael, who's someone that I find more than incredible, and my favorite of all the actors. And it's true. And I was honored to work with him. And we're staying together in this hotel. And anyway, that's a non sequitur. Sometimes my brain just says the strangest things out loud in my mouth. But for me, like, help trying to figure out Gideon, you know, I come in at the end of the movie, and when I got there towards the end of the shooting, and Edgar was showing me all of these clips of, like, very roughly edited things he had shot of all these other actors, and I had a pretty clear idea of the movie I could ruin. I was intimidated. Everyone's performance seemed to be so incredible. And I was like, oh my God, like how am I like supposed to be the evilest of all these people? Every one of these people are great and funny and evil and not evil, and it's so complicated. And like Michael said, Edgar has a whole movie in his head, and you know, if it was a piece of music, if you could think of the movie like a piece of music, and I'm a musician, like a session guy coming in to play some music, there's like 15 different ways you could play it maybe. Loud, soft, kind of shaky, really strong, long notes, whatever. But if you just do it the way you want to do it, and are thinking just about that, you could throw off all the music that's been recorded before it. And so he's the main guy, Edgar, and so you ask him, like, what kind of thing are we going for with the music? How do you want me to do it? And then I paid attention to Michael, because I'm his nemesis, and in all my favorite movies, the nemesis is so close to the hero, and that's why there are those scenes in all the movies I love where the villain says, come on, let's join forces, together we can rule this thing. That's because
we're not so different.
Exactly, because they really aren't so different. So there wasn't a lot of Gideon in the books. There was in the script. There isn't in the movie. No, I'm just kidding. But no, there was a lot of information there if you just watch Michael, because I'm just trying to be the worst possible thing to him, which is passive-aggressive. So I know it's a crazy answer, but thank you.
Well, you know what? I know the question wasn't for me, but I think I can answer for Michael and Jason. So I think I can answer for you.
Probably better than both of us.
But one thing I would think you would agree with this, because I've heard you say similar things, is that it was really amazing shooting in Toronto for Toronto, and not only being in the locations that are in the book, but they were kind of the places that we'd hang out in offset as well. So it's one thing to kind of like, even just down to the coffee shops and like record stores and stuff. So that was really weird, and it was an easy film to get completely lost in. And I think some of the actors like totally disappeared into their characters. Like, I'm not sure where Ellen Wong and Knives Chow starts and ends, you know, like which is amazing. And I think sort of it was in a weird way, I think sort of doing for 5 months, and you know, even like I think sort of just within little cliques and teams, it's amazing how like sort of Johnny and Alison and Mark, kind of as Sex for Bomb and you, kind of became like a little kind of team and stuff. And that stuff is amazing to kind of watch when people start to kind of like become their characters. And you know, we're in these amazing sets, all these recreations of real places in Toronto. And I think one of the sweetest things that I remember is that on the last day of the shoot, Michael was wearing his kind of Scott Pilgrim parka in the last shot. And then when we wrapped, he didn't take his parka off, and then he went home with his parka as well. So I just have this image of you going off into the night on the last night of the
Still
shoot.
sleeping in it. I'm showering it.
The other person who went home in their costume was Thomas Jane. That man is his costume. That's the name of it. Beautiful. He refused to take his costume off, and then he was on his way to the airport, and I got a text from him saying, "It's Thomas." He goes, "I've got the vegan police costume." And he said, "If you cut me out of the film, it's going on eBay, otherwise I'm wearing it at the premiere." And I got like a text message. I think he was deadly serious as well.
Oh, I'll tell you about one last thing later in the lobby. I wore red silk panties the whole shoot. Women's underwear. I'll tell you about that.
That's absolutely true. Jason decided that if he was obsessive about Ramona, he would wear a pair of
Well, no, I thought that in my backstory, Gideon took a shuttle flight to New York to Toronto and didn't wear any underwear. And then he gets Ramona back, and then they wake up and he's thinking, this woman's back, and I don't have underwear, and she's mine now, so I'm going to wear her underwear. She's mine. And he just wears underwear. And so I would wear red silk panties the entire shoot. And then also I found out what perfume Mary Winsett would wear, and I wore that every day. So it was odd. I mean, talk about it was.
How did the rest of the crew discover this?
The hard way. There was one day, because we did do our own stunts. It's not a lie. It's not like the other actors who say they do. We really did. And I did a kick that was just a little too high. And my pants, you guys saw The Incredible Hulk. You know when he becomes the Hulk and it just sort of like